guess we just spent the past 10 minutes talking to a camera without pressing record. Yeah. What I want to do is have a quick word with you with regards to, well, it's going to be slightly controversial. I know it is. Because, but bear in mind, it is just my opinion, alright? Now, there's been talk for several months now about the South African rugby team joining the Six Nations. Now, here's my view. Oh, I can just see the hate now. But bear with me. I don't think it's going to work. And here's why. The South Africans, brilliant rugby players, obviously, they're the world champs. And as a byproduct of the world #1. There in itself is a wee bit of a come-to that I've had online with a few members of the Rugby Fanatics Talking Facebook group. But I digress. Here's what is going to happen in my mind's eye. You see, the South Africans, what keeps them at the top is if they play in a competition with arguably the best team in the world, my team. And, well, there's not a team in the world that plays against the All Blacks that doesn't lift themselves to provide at least 100% of what it is that they're capable of. I just so happen to be living in a country that hasn't beaten the All Blacks since 1953. That's a bit of a bone of contention, because there's no reason why they shouldn't. They've got the players, they have the personnel. I think what it must come down to is a bit of a mental block. I'm digressing left, right and centre here because I'm trying to avoid the awkward truth. Well, there's several different dimensions to this argument that I'm about to present. One of them is travel. Our Super Rugby season always has a wee bit of a hiatus, largely because the Northern Hemisphere teams come down and play rugby with us. They have a 3-test series, go home, enjoy their summer. There's always been chat amongst the rugby community around the world about crowd sizes. Now, you'll see videos from various YouTubers trying to explain why it is that the Super Rugby crowd sizes aren't what they're supposed to be. And I've got it. I think I know the secret. And I've mentioned it to a few people before. I don't think it's much to do with the rugby itself. I'll put it to you like this. If rugby was being played over here in July, how many would turn up compared to how many people would enjoy going to the pub? And that there is the meat and bones of it. The Super Rugby season starts in the middle of summer. Who wants to sit in a stadium and buy a beer for 20 bucks when you can do exactly the same thing in a pub for half the price? That, in a nutshell, in my nutshell, is what the problem is. But let's bring that back to the Six Nations competition, like I was trying to in the first place. This here is going to be the problem as far as the Six Nations is concerned. You've got home games, you've got away games. Now the teams that are going to play the away games in South Africa are going to struggle. Here's why. Up here, you're playing in 10 degrees or less in the middle of winter because it's cold. It's just cold. In South Africa in the middle of summer, you're looking at 30 degrees. This is going to be a problem. I mean, I don't know that this is going to be a problem, obviously, but I suspect it's going to be a problem. Combine that with the fact that Northern Hemisphere teams don't travel well, you've got a recipe for disaster. Now, obviously, they're going to give it a full World Cup cycle. I say obviously, I suspect they're going to give it a full World Cup cycle to work. I don't think it's gonna. I think what's going to happen is the South African teams are going to kick you a backside, left, right and centre. The northern teams are going to get a bit uppity and they're going to want them out. Now, suddenly, that, you know how back a few years ago they were talking about the Georgian rugby squad coming to the Six Nations? They were up in arms about travelling there. You know, who wants to spend 5 hours in a plane, blah, blah, blah. Well, now all of a sudden you're talking about travelling to the other side of the world. that's not brilliant. Especially when you're talking about playing a game one week in winter, the next week in summer. There lies the problem. And that's where I've always thought about it. I thought, look, you don't want to have Southern Hemisphere teams joining that. I get where the South Africans are coming from. The South African rand is worth nothing. Well, it's not worth nothing, but it's worth nothing compared to the pound or compared to the euro. And that is why I suspect a whole load of South African rugby players come over here and play club rugby, because they're making a killing in comparison to what they'd make back home. Makes sense, but at the same time, I think what it's going to do is kill them. Because the Rugby Championship is obviously going to get changed up. We're going to have the Australians, I suspect. I mean, it's a bit of grey area at the moment. All sorts going on over there. But I suspect what we're going to do is we're going to incorporate some Pacific Island teams. But if we were to have Pacific Island teams, say Samoa or Tonga or Fiji or all of them, in a rugby competition, what that's going to do is it's going to raise the standard by virtue of the fact that they're playing against some of the best teams in the world. Same thing about playing in the Six Nations. Granted, you're not used to this, but therein lies the rub. You guys are going to have the South Africans, potentially the Georgians. I mean, the Georgians deserve it because they're here. And I don't think the South Africans are going to let you off the hook as easily as you might think. You know, I'm in SAFA chat groups and a lot, and we've kind of discussed this one to the nth degree, which is kind of why I'm talking in circles and why I can't formulate an idea succinctly in my head anymore. But that's the rugby portion. The other portion that I wanted to talk about was how I'm going to be changing up the channel. Largely what it comes down to is my children. Now, my kids, I haven't told them that I've got a YouTube channel, but because they're coming of age now, Maddie's 9, Odie's 7, Sam already knew that I had the YouTube channel, obviously, but they've got tablets now, and as a direct result, they have the ability to use YouTube. Unfortunately, Madison came across the Rugby Sinbin YouTube channel. Now, granted, it has been known for me to have a wee rant every now and again. It's the Sinbin. I grant myself that luxury. What I don't want to do, though, is encourage the kids. So, essentially what I'm going to be doing is tidying it up a wee bit. Obviously, we've been in lockdown, and we're only just starting to come out of lockdown. Whoa, that's a wind. Yeah, over here in Wales, we're finally coming out of the lockdown. But the lockdown itself gave me some perspective. Well, not just perspective, it gave me some time to consider things. I don't want the kids growing up looking at these YouTube videos thinking all I did was sit up here, had a rant and swear like, well, swear loads to a video camera. But at the same time, I wanted to change it up. All I wanted to do really was provide you guys with some content rugby related that's different than most of the content that's out there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do some art pieces that are rugby related but with a slight spin. Now bear with me. I'm not going for the Puritan art like you'll always see out there. The 1920s sort of art, none of that. We are going to go full superhero mode. Yeah, there's a couple of reasons why. Not least of which because of the South African Super Rugby teams. Them lucky buggers, they've got Marvel jerseys, and they're awesome. It winds me up somewhat, that. Only because I'm a Kiwi, and I want New Zealand teams to have Marvel jerseys. Here comes a wee bit of gratuitous self-promotion. Another thing that I decided to do, because I've always been about promotion, and with Odie being autistic, I thought I'd try and come up with a way in which I'd be able to help raise funds for the NAS. And they got back in touch with me, and they had a whole list of things that I could potentially do, fundraising wise. And I says, no, look, we're in a lockdown. I started up an Etsy shop, Sinbin Creations, no less. By all means, go along, check it out. I'll put the link down below. But what I said to them was, look, for everybody that purchases this picture, I'll give you 50%. They were all over it. I've been getting emails left, right and centre. I've been encouraged to make more, which is fine. It's fine. I'm more than happy to do it. Yes, I'll probably do similar. For me, it was being able to highlight that autistic kids have special powers as well. Not your everyday special powers, you know, none of them can fly. But Otis, you could ask Otis a question about an animal and he will give you, nigh on, every single fact there is about the thing. I like drawing, I really do. And not all of my art's going to be everyone's cup of tea. But then, what else was I going to do when I've been stuck at home these past 4 or 5 months? It only made sense. Find something to do that could help or even inspire others. And that's why I'm going to turn the Sinbin channel into something of a rugby/art channel. So what I've done is I've started drawing superheroes playing rugby or with rugby content within it. As you can see here, we have Spider-Man. There are things that I don't like about Spider-Man, truth be told. Drawing him, namely. I mean, I don't mind drawing him, but there's one thing that's really difficult, and if you mess it up, it's never going to look right, and that's his webbing. Now, sketching it's fine, but when it comes time to inking, you want to make sure that you get it all bang on. So I try to sketch as much as I can before I start the inking process. Now, I had to do a bit of parenting, so that's why there was a delay. Now, I heard that they were producing these 0.03mm nib ink pens. That's tiny. And I thought, well, let's get a few of those and give them a blast, see whether or not that's going to work with the webbing. Well, as you can see here, not that great. I don't know if it's because the pencil was too thick or whatever the case is. Fortunately, I got a couple. Now, one of them works. And that one can go flying across the room. So yeah, when you're doing inking, take your time. Inking is one of my favourite parts of art, largely because if it doesn't look right, nothing will look right. But if you get it bang on, it encourages you to be slightly more careful when it comes time to colouring. Now, one thing I didn't realise when I started this Spider-Man, and in fact I probably wouldn't have drawn him if I'd have known this in the first place, but my light blue and my light red, they were running out. Another thing that I came to realise when it came time to do this video for the channel was a lot of the colours that are my favourite colours have started to run out. Now, the beauty is, of course, that they are dual tips. You've got a fine nib and you've also got a chisel head. Now, the chisel head itself is awesome in terms of coverage, but the nib, you really want to find nib when it comes to doing outlines. Now, what you don't worry too much about is the base coat, because the base coat is what the base coat is. So with the blue, I persevered. And I've got a darker shade of blue, and I went over it, and I went over it, and I went over it, but it still didn't quite look right, so I just went full dark blue, and that was a bit of a cock-up. I also did the same with the reds. Having said all of that, it's not too much of a concern, largely because I've also got some pencils. Now, I tend to use pencils largely because when it comes time to shading or blending, it's relatively straightforward. I kind of gave up the filming only because when it came time to doing the ball, you have to get in there. You have to really get in there. And there's no real fun looking at the back of my head. Here's the finished product here. No, wait. Here's the finished product. I was thinking about sticking this on the Etsy shop, but then I thought to myself, new beginnings, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give them away. If you want Spider-Man, what you've got to do is you've got to like, you've got to subscribe, and you've got to hit the notification bell. It's really quite straightforward, actually. I'll choose in a week or two. The best way to get a hold of me actually is either in the comments down below, on Facebook or on Instagram. All of my social medias I'll list down below as well. What I'm going to do with the Sinbin channel as well, particularly for all the younger audience, is I'm going to start a Discord. There's going to be a Discord page there where you can share your art, you know, where you can just chew the fat, talk rugby. I really am hopeful that the art thing does take off, because it's art. Who doesn't love art? You know, I don't care how old you are. I'm in my 40s now. I'm in my 40s and I'm drawing cartoon characters. That's a conversation I don't want to have right now. But yeah, so join me on my Discord. I'll link to that below. Obviously there's no one in there yet because I haven't started one, but I think that's another way to keep you occupied. I'll go and share some of my art on there. What I'll do is I'll nip off now because I've just seen that I've been talking for a wee while and I'm sure you guys want to get going. But if you like the idea of the direction that I'm going to take the Sinbin in, let me know. Let me know in the comments down below. If you want Spider-Man, like, subscribe, smash the notification bell so that you can see all of the videos coming, stuff like that. Never really know how to end these videos. I think what I might just edit.